here is a case, a PC case. Just an empty case, well, almost an empty case. It was an empty case when I got it. I've added the power supply, which I actually pulled out of the new XT back there. We'll get into that in a second. The new XT's got a new power supply. I guess just a quick little update on this. I have a more appropriate Sparkle Power 250 watt installed in that. Worked good. So that's all working like it's supposed to. But I didn't realize that that power supply that was in there was a fairly old power supply, so that's only got a 350 watt Sparkle Power in it. So I'm probably going to end up having to buy another power supply, because my plan is to put this case to a practical use. You're probably not going to be able to read that, and I don't think this camera's got a macro. No, I don't see a macro on this camera. But I paid $10 for this case. Basically brand new. I mean, it looks like it hasn't had much installed in it. It's a very interesting power button. It's a little crumpled up, but I do have the TX series installation instructions. There's a blowout schematic, drive installs, etc., etc. Plus a little addendum that I believe talks about the front panel connections. I'm trying to think about what this actually would have in terms of front panel. I think it's probably just USB and audio. Let me see if I can lift that up. Yeah, it looks like it's USB and audio. There is no front panel 1394, which is fine. I can't say I've ever used it either. I do plan on fitting this with thumb screws. It's just got regular screws in it right now. I find the thumb screws are much easier to deal with. Here's a look inside the case. I actually went ahead and installed the standoffs because they were not installed. Got this little bag of goodies, which includes what I presume are all the screws. So I'm having a hard time believing that this case has ever been used. Now, my original plan was to throw that motherboard into it and at least do some testing to see if it worked, but use this as my second VM server to replace that. But I think what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to throw this motherboard in and use this to replace the wireless bridge. Use it for that, because I think that my second VM server I want to move to a bigger case, probably a full-size case, probably not unlike this one. But I've got one at work that's got another one of those motherboards in it that I think I would have just straight used that. I didn't realize that apparently when I put this thing away I left the RAM on it. So that's got 16 gigs of DDR4 3200. So that's actually kind of impressive. There's no NVMe on it, which is fine. It's just going to get the NVMe from the existing system. But there should not be a need for any drives. I don't need a CD-ROM. It's going to be a server, so what do I need a CD-ROM for? And it's not likely that this thing is going to see prolonged use anyway. But I am going to get a different power supply, because that Sparkle Power is not going to be suitable for this task. So, I mean, it would be. There's nothing necessarily wrong with it. It's just that I want something with 80 plus capabilities, as well as the proper 8-pin CPU power connector. But I'm going to go ahead and get this fitted. I've already got the I/O plate installed, and then we can power it up and see if it still works. Okay, I've got the board installed, and as you can see, I've also installed a bigger heatsink. This is a Cooler Master Hyper T2 that I had laying around. Didn't need the bigger heatsink, but I figure I might as well have it, just for the enhanced heat dissipation. Somebody's going to tell me, you've installed the heatsink wrong, and they would be wrong, because this is the only way you can install the heatsink. So, I can't switch the position of these mounting points because AMD used an asymmetrical setup, so this is the way that it has to be with that. And I can't put that bracket in the other way because the heat pipes are in the way. And that's how this thing is machined. It's machined for it to be installed like this. So this is what you get, and nothing else. So now I just got to hook up all the connections, which should be entertaining. Okay, can't see in there very well, but everything is hooked up. Let's hit power, if I can find the switch, which is supposed to be right there. Alright, it's on. And we got video. I think delete is to get into setup. Just beeped at me. So I think that we're good. CPU temperature looks good. 16 gigs of RAM. The M2 obviously is unpopulated right now, but again, I think we're okay. Everything here is good to go. Change of plan. Because the existing system here has decided that it's going to stop working properly. So, I'm going to go ahead and use that for the VM machine. Now, of course, because somebody over here doesn't really understand how to park, this is going to be a little bit more difficult than it needs to be. But I've got one of these Q87M boards in here. I tried upgrading it to a new CPU. That was a huge fail, I guess, because that CPU was too new. So the system didn't have the microcode for it. But it's got 32 gigs of RAM, 1600 megahertz. So it'll be faster RAM than what the other one's got. I'm hoping it's going to be stable. Something tells me it won't be, but here's the existing machine. It's the DQ77MK. It's also got 32 gigabytes of memory. But it will not complete the power on self-test anymore. I don't really know why. There's no reason for it. While I'm at it, the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to replace this Sparkle power supply, which is rather small and inefficient, with this Thermaltake Smart Series 600 watt, which is admittedly rather overkill, but smaller power supplies are not easy to come by. It says it's Haswell ready, which, given this is a brand new power supply and given how old Haswell is, it better be Haswell ready. Although in this case it kind of fits because this is a Haswell platform. So we'll get that unpackaged and installed, and well, we'll see where we go from there. Okay, ready for power up. Please work. Doesn't seem like it is. So, once again, it chooses not to work for no reason. Okay, I made it work. Now, hopefully, it'll boot still. All these USB drives attached. Well, it looks like it's doing exactly the same thing the other one was doing. For some reason. It's just sitting there. There's no real excuse for it. Okay, what's it doing now? Holy crap. What is going on here? Okay, so I have poured almost my entire day into this stupid computer right here, and it has decided to do nothing but piss me off. So we're at that point. We're at the point where we get into the rant. So, as you saw, I cannot boot this thing while USB devices are plugged in. I don't know why. I've disabled USB booting and it doesn't seem to matter, because it will not boot when USB devices are plugged in. Okay, fine. I can live without the USB devices. I've got enough hard drives on there. I don't really need them anyway. Okay. So that's what I'm actually doing right now, is I'm transferring the data off of the USB drives. But here's the thing that's going to serve to make my life a lot more difficult. I've never seen this before. And I don't know if anybody's ever seen this before. Because this takes trying, folks. This really takes trying. I don't understand this at all. Okay? So I have spent the last 30 minutes trying to debug this. Which is why I now have 2 PCI cards. They're the middle 2 cards right there. You can see this top one's a PCI Express card. That bottom one is a PCI Express wireless card, which is working just fine and has been for the entire time I've been using this. And in the middle are 2 Intel network cards. One of them is a Pro 100S. The other one is a Pro 1000 something or another. Doesn't matter. It's a common chipset. Windows has built-in drivers. And guess what? Not only did neither of them actually work as far as installing a driver, but watch this. Watch what happens when I go into Properties and Device Manager and take a look at network adapters. Okay, we have an Intel Ethernet connection i217, that's the onboard, and we have a PCI Express adapter TP-Link wireless. Where is my Pro 100, and where is my Pro 1000? Nowhere to be found anywhere on this list. It is not enumerating PCI devices. And that, my friends, takes extra special trying. I am so tired of these retarded Asus motherboards doing stupid shit. I have been working with computers for 20 years, almost my entire life. PCI has been around since the early 1990s. What year is it? 2022 as I'm recording this. So what is that? Well, it's been 20 years since PCI came out. And it doesn't work. Oh, they're getting power. I mean, you can see there. I've got a cable plugged into one of them. The lights are on. But it just doesn't work. So, I don't recommend doing this, ever. This is probably going to make the computer reboot when I do this. Interrupting my transfer, but I don't care. Because it has just lost its network card privileges. Just like that. So now, what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to end up transferring the virtual machines that relied on that network interface over to a different machine, probably this one. Could be that one too. That one's got a second network interface in it that I'm not using for anything. In fact, I may actually just do that. Wouldn't be a bad idea. And I'm going to have to transfer things from that to this, because both that and this are overloaded. And this too, if you're keeping score, but, you know, I shouldn't have to do this, man. It's PCI. This should just work. What year is it again? I don't think I need to repeat myself. So, moving on. Okay, so the quality of this video just took a nosedive because the flip decided that it was going to run out of batteries. Anyway, the video is over, so you don't have to put up with this for too long. My work on this is not done, because I'm probably going to end up replacing this with a different setup, because I don't like this, because it doesn't work properly. But it is running. Everything is running. It's working, as far as I can tell. And I've got this set up. What's probably going to end up happening is I'm going to end up having 3 VM hosts instead of just 2. And then one will be on one network, one will be on another network, and then the third one will be on a completely separate network, just so I can keep everything separate. Of course, then there's the VPN server down there, which has got stuff on it, but I'll focus on all this crap later. Right now, this is the way things are set up. They're functioning, at least as of 2:13 in the morning. They're functioning. I'll probably wake up tomorrow and they'll be broken again, but, you know, I can't be living life this way, so I just gotta hope for the best, even though they're computers, and I know that hoping for the best is not the best idea. So, call the video at that. Thanks for watching. If you've got any comments, somehow I suspect there'll probably be several, or none at all, feel free to leave them down below.